Hi, I'm Scott Wrighton. I serve as Decatur City Manager, and it is my distinct pleasure to come week after week, or have somebody else here to tell you about what's going on in your city government. First thing I want to mention is a topic that I talked about before, but bears some additional discussion. And that is that the City Council has taken direct action to try to make sure that whenever the eviction moratorium goes away, that there are measures in place so that people who've been dislocated by COVID and its economic effects can look for some relief for their back utility payments, especially Ameren, as well as rent and mortgage assistance. Now, you have to qualify, there's certain requirements for that, but the City Council last year provided some program money through HUD, and this year through its ARP money, and we are partnering with Dove, a key local social service agency, to provide those funds. And since the Council took this second action to give some additional funds to Dove, I can tell you that their numbers have gone up and the number of people that are seeing them, and we've been able to move the money through a little bit faster. Of course, as I said, they have restrictions, they have rules, we have to make sure that there's not fraud going on, but this is an important step that the City Council took, and if you have questions about whether or not you might be eligible, what sort of documentation you might need to provide, please call Dove. One of the other actions that the City Council has been advancing, and which will probably be on their City Council agenda next month in September, are certain rules for how some of the ARP housing assistance money will be used in some of the distressed neighborhoods in our urban core. One of the ways that are dictated by the U.S. Treasury Department, who sets the rules on ARP, but also some of the directions that the City Council and staff have provided, is that we want to make a significant investment in rehabilitation of existing houses. The simple reality is that some of these structures are so far gone, they've deteriorated so much, there's nothing we can do except demolish them. But there are many others that are savable and in fact are worth saving. But a key factor in determining whether or not we can use money for rehab successfully is whether or not the amount of money that's put into what I call the gap is too much based on the fair market value of the house. For example, if you buy some old house for $25,000 or $30,000 and put $100,000 in rehabilitation costs into it, it may not sell for the $130,000 that you've got into it. It may only be in a neighborhood where even when it's rehabilitated and modernized, it still only fetches a fair market value of about half that. So there will be limits, of course, as to how much money we can put into rehabilitation, but we are determined in some of the target neighborhoods that the City Council has already identified as key targets for its neighborhood revitalization project that we want to be significantly invested in rehabilitation to save some of these homes. And I suspect that as early as next month, the City Council will take some preliminary action on some of the rules, some of the guidelines about how we can partner with other agencies that are engaged in that kind of work and what sort of maximums there will be for rehabilitation. So if you're the owner or even the occupant of a structure that might fit one of those, that it's not so bad that it just needs to be demolished, it's infinitely rehabable, then you might want to reach out to the Community Development Department or think about some of the ways that rehab can be achieved. Given the fact that building materials have increased in price, the economics of doing good rehab might actually be working in Decatur's favor. More about that in the weeks ahead. So you've probably seen as well reported in the media that the COVID numbers are up. In fact, in Region 6, which is our region of the state that includes Macon County, the positivity rate has jumped to 8.4%. Anything above 8% is out of compliance with the Illinois Department of Public Health Department's regulations. Here in Macon County, it's nearly 3 points higher at 11.3% positivity for Macon County. So why is it that Macon County seems to have a much higher rate than the rest of our region? Well, there's no simple or single answer. One of the answers, however, probably is that our vaccination rate is just a little bit over 41% here in Macon County, whereas it's higher in most of the counties around us. So we need to continue to be attentive to vaccination, understand that vaccination is always your best bet to prevent the virus, and even if you have the vaccination and you are a breakthrough case, generally what we're seeing, what the numbers are showing, is that you're going to have a much less severe experience with COVID, that even if there's a breakthrough, that that your chance of dying is substantially less. Nearly all of the hospital admissions are people who have not been vaccinated. But the vaccination rate perhaps isn't the only reason that we're seeing positivity rates at 11.3% here in Macon County. There has been, I think it's probably fair to say, some reluctance on the part of employers to really push vaccinations because of the pushback that there has been, because they're afraid of some people maybe leaving their employ as a result of that. I'm not aware of any major employers here in Macon County that are mandating vaccinations, although most of them are strongly encouraging it. Here at the city of Decatur, we are also strongly encouraging it. We may go further next week, and actually, although it has been our policy for some time that if you're not vaccinated, then you have to wear a mask. It's been on an honor system. Most employers are using the honor system. I think we need to step into an arrangement where people who have been vaccinated demonstrate that with their card, and we have records of that so that we can enforce masks amongst those who have chosen not to be vaccinated. We're simply at a point where the numbers are reaching that point that's the responsible decision to take. I think maybe one of the other reasons that the positivity rate is high is that I'm not sure how to describe it. Maybe it's best described as a general complacency about the importance of public health precautions, not just vaccination, but many of the other precautions that we can take. Social distancing, avoiding large groups, covering your mouth, using your elbow or your arm rather than your hand when you have to sneeze, or many other things that are not all that difficult. They don't disrupt our lives that much, but they're just common sense things that we can all do. And I think that because the numbers weren't so bad, that we all got a little bit complacent about that, and now we have to be on guard again. Finally, I should say that yesterday Governor Pritzker announced that depending on how the numbers go, he may take measures to have additional, either, if not lockdowns, and then retreating to phase 4 or one of the other phases in the system that he had developed. There's a lot of discussion nationally about whether or not the federal government has the authority to continue eviction moratoriums and mandate masks, and I think that there's legitimate question as to what their legal authority is. But under our system of federalism, it's fairly clear that the governor of the state does have that authority. So I suspect, although the city council hasn't given any additional clear direction on this, that to the greatest extent possible and feasible, they will try to follow the recommendations of the State Department of Public Health and the recommendations that come out of the governor's office. But I will pledge to keep you up to date through these weekly videos and the other press releases that the city of Decatur produces, so that you are as up to date with the information that we have as well. So thank you for tuning in and giving me a chance to share this week's video.